Laura Lynn Cross was a prominent figure in the small community of Tallmadge, Ohio. At age 37, she was a dedicated and respected high school teacher known for her passion for teaching and genuine care for her students. With an apparently perfect life, she had a comfortable home and a solid career, being seen as an example to be followed by many. Michael, an 18-year-old, was one of Laura Lynn's students. He was facing an extremely difficult time in his life, as his parents were in the midst of a difficult separation process. The atmosphere at home was heavy and full of conflict, making him feel lost and helpless. Looking for some kind of emotional stability, Michael was vulnerable and looking for support. Laura Lynn, always attentive to the needs of her students, noticed Michael's distress. She approached him, offering a listening ear and words of comfort. Initially, it seemed to be just the gesture of a teacher concerned about a student's well-being. However, there was something more behind his concern. It was on a sunny afternoon that Laura Lynn made her first significant move. "Michael, why don't you come over to my house and relax for a bit? I have a swimming pool, and I believe that a swim can help relieve stress," she said with a welcoming smile. The invitation sounded innocent, almost maternal. Michael, desperate for a moment of peace, accepted. Laura Lynn's house was a refuge compared to the turmoil that reigned in her parents' home. The pool was a place to escape, where he could temporarily forget about family problems. Laura Lynn welcomed him with open arms, offering not only her home but also a shoulder to lean on and comforting advice. As time went by, visits to the teacher's house became more frequent. Laura Lynn hosted dinners, watched movies together, and talked for hours. The relationship between them began to transcend the typical teacher-student relationship. She was a supportive figure, almost a maternal substitute, who filled the emotional void Michael felt. Laura Lynn, sensing Michael's vulnerability and their growing connection, proposed a radical solution. "Michael, you know you can count on me for whatever you need. Why don't you stay here at home until things calm down with your parents? It would be good for you to have a quiet place to focus on your studies and your life." The idea seemed sensible and full of good intentions. Michael was initially hesitant, but the tension at home was unbearable. He needed an escape, and Laura Lynn offered just that. Convincing his mother to allow him to move into the teacher's house was not a difficult task. Laura Lynn approached Michael's mother with solid arguments, highlighting the importance of a stable environment for the young man's academic and emotional development. Desperate for a solution that would bring her son some peace, Michael's mother agreed. So Michael moved into Laura Lynn's house. What started as an offer of help quickly turned into a daily coexistence, where the closeness between them grew more and more. Laura Lynn became more than a teacher and a mother figure. She became the person Michael trusted most. This new arrangement marked the beginning of a relationship that would go far beyond the limits accepted by society and professional ethics. Laura Lynn Cross and Michael were entering dangerous territory, the consequences of which would be felt by everyone around them. What began as an act of kindness and concern would turn into a scandal that would rock the Tallmadge community and change their lives forever. Michael's move into Laura Lynn Cross's home began gradually and unassumingly. Initially, he only carried a backpack with clothes to spend a few nights. But before long, these occasional visits became more frequent and longer. Soon Laura's guest room became Michael's new home, filled with his personal belongings and mementos. Laura Lynn was dedicated to creating a welcoming and safe environment for Michael. She redecorated his room, ensuring he felt comfortable and at home. For her, it was essential that he found a refuge in his home away from the conflicts and family instability he faced. Michael, in turn, found a sense of peace and security in Laura's house that he hadn't experienced in a long time. Michael's new routine quickly established itself. In the morning, Laura Lynn prepared breakfast, and the two went to school together. During the day, they maintained the facade of teacher and student, but when they returned home, the dynamic changed. The formalities of the classroom disappeared, and they behaved like a little makeshift family. This daily coexistence brought growing emotional intimacy. Laura Lynn became Michael's confidant, listening to his fears and frustrations. She offered advice and support, always ready to help him face the challenges of teenage life. The relationship they developed was unlike any other Michael had ever had with an adult. He saw Laura as a mother figure, friend, and eventually something more. The young man began to depend more and more on Laura. Their turbulent and lonely nights at home were replaced by peaceful dinners and deep conversations. Emotional barriers began to crumble, and Michael opened up to Laura in a way he never had before. On one of these nights, after a long dinner, Michael opened up about his difficulties in dealing with his parents' separation. Laura Lynn listened carefully, holding his hand. "Michael, you are an incredible young man. You will get through this and come out stronger," she said, looking deeply into his eyes. Laura Lynn's words had a profound impact on Michael. He felt a strong connection and, for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone. This emotional closeness, however, began to go down a dangerous path. The tension in the air was palpable, and they both felt the growing attraction, but were hesitant to cross the invisible line that separated the acceptable from the unacceptable. Meanwhile, Michael's schoolmates and the local community began to notice the change. The whispers and curious looks became more frequent, but no one suspected the true nature of the relationship between the two. To everyone, Laura Lynn was just a concerned teacher, offering a safe place to a struggling student. However, Michael's mother began to feel that something was wrong. His son's visits became rare, and when they did happen, he seemed distant, almost evasive. She expressed her concerns to Michael, but he insisted everything was fine, assuring her that Laura Lynn was just helping him focus on his studies. As the days went by, the relationship between Michael and Laura Lynn deepened. He trusted her more and more, not just as a mentor but as a close friend and, eventually, as something more. Evenings that were once filled with deep conversations began to include moments of closer physical contact, hugs that lasted longer than usual, touches of hands that conveyed more than simple comfort. Michael, confused about his feelings, began to realize that what he felt for Laura Lynn went beyond simple gratitude. There was a mixture of admiration, attraction, and love. Laura Lynn, in turn, was aware of the line she was about to cross, but Michael's attention and affection made her question her own ethical and emotional barriers. One rainy night, after an intense discussion about Michael's problems with his father, Laura Lynn hugged him tightly. The hug turned into a kiss, breaking the last barrier that existed between them. From that moment on, the relationship changed irrevocably. What was supposed to be a support during a difficult time turned into a forbidden romance. Daily coexistence, previously seen as a temporary arrangement to help Michael, solidified as a new reality. They became inseparable, living a double life where intimacy was hidden behind the closed doors of Laura Lynn's house. The secret they shared was heavy, but for a while they managed to keep it hidden, away from the judgmental eyes of society. The relationship between Laura Lynn Cross and Michael blossomed in secret for 3 years. During this period, they learned to live with the constant need to hide their intimacy, fearing the repercussions if they were discovered. However, in the midst of this double life, something unexpected and complicated happened. Laura Lynn became pregnant. The discovery of the pregnancy brought a new wave of emotions and worries for both of them. For Laura, there was the joy of expecting a child, mixed with the fear of the consequences that would arise. Michael, although young and inexperienced, also felt a mix of emotions: happiness, fear, and a growing responsibility. They decided to keep the pregnancy a secret, hiding the truth from everyone, including Michael's family. Laura Lynn began taking extra precautions to hide her pregnancy. She wore looser clothing and avoided social situations that might arouse suspicion. Over the next few months, Laura's house became an even more closed sanctuary, where they could share their anticipation for the baby without fear of discovery. The nightly conversations turned to the future child. Names, dreams, and plans for the future that they knew were uncertain. The situation became even more tense when Michael's mother began to suspect something was wrong. His son's visits became even rarer, and he avoided talking about his life at Laura's house. Suspicious, she filed a criminal complaint against Laura Lynn, but Michael refused to leave the teacher's residence. He was determined to stay by Laura's side and protect their secret at any cost. Finally, in 2015, Laura gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The birth of the baby brought a new layer of complexity to their relationship. The baby was a tangible part of their forbidden love, a permanent bond that, if discovered, would have devastating consequences. They made the difficult decision to keep the baby a secret, fearing the revelation would destroy their lives. To ensure the baby remained hidden, Laura Lynn created an elaborate story. She told the few friends and neighbors she still maintained that the baby belonged to a distant relative, and that she was only helping to care for it temporarily. Michael, in turn, had to hide his new identity as a father, maintaining the facade of a simple student living with his teacher. Despite all the care, the pressure of living with so many secrets began to take its toll. Laura Lynn and Michael lived in constant fear of being discovered. The tension increased every day, and small cracks began to appear in their relationship. The joy they felt for the baby was constantly overshadowed by anxiety and guilt. Everything fell apart when Michael's father received an anonymous tip. The person who made the report revealed the existence of the baby and suggested that something very wrong was happening in Laura Lynn's house. Michael's father, who was already suspicious due to his son's distant behavior, immediately contacted the police. The police acted quickly. Investigators went to Laura Lynn's home and began asking questions. Laura tried to remain calm, but she knew the truth was about to come out. Michael, desperate, tried to protect Laura and the baby, but the evidence was irrefutable. Scandal broke out in the small community of Talmadge, Ohio. The news that a teacher had had a child with a student shocked everyone. Laura Lynn was arrested and charged with child abuse and professional misconduct. Michael, although legally an adult at the time of the baby's birth, faced a whirlwind of emotions as he watched the woman he loved being taken away by the police. During the trial, Laura Lynn admitted to the relationship with Michael and the existence of the baby. She told how it all started, from the invitation to swim in the pool to the decision to let Michael live with her. The defense tried to argue that Laura Lynn was just trying to help Michael during a difficult time, but the prosecution highlighted the serious breach of trust and professional ethics. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the verdict was finally reached. Laura Lynn Cross was found guilty of multiple charges, including sexual abuse of a minor and professional misconduct. The sentence was harsh, up to 15 years in prison. The judge, when pronouncing the sentence, highlighted the seriousness of his actions and the need to send a clear message about the violation of trust and ethics. For Michael, Laura's sentence brought a mixture of relief and pain. Relief because, finally, the situation had a legal resolution. Pain because the woman he loved was now behind bars, and he knew that part of the responsibility for all of this also fell on his shoulders. Michael also had to deal with the consequences of his own actions. Although he did not face criminal charges, the social and emotional stigma was heavy. He became the target of gossip and dirty looks at school and in the community. His education was interrupted, and he needed time and psychological support to begin to process everything that had happened. The baby, now a living symbol of the forbidden relationship, was placed in the custody of social services. Authorities began searching for a suitable adoptive family, someone who could offer the boy the stability and love he deserved. Michael's mother, after the initial shock, tried to get involved in the process, wanting to ensure that her grandson was cared for properly. The Talmadge community also had to deal with the repercussions of the case. The school where Laura Lynn taught implemented new policies to prevent any similar situations in the future. Parents and teachers have undergone additional training on appropriate boundaries between students and educators. Laura Lynn and Michael's story became a painful lesson in the dangers of crossing these lines. While Laura served her sentence, Michael began a slow process of rebuilding. He returned to his studies, now at a different school, where he could try to start over away from the judgmental eyes. He also sought therapeutic help to deal with the emotional and psychological trauma. The relationship with his parents, especially his mother, who he felt had failed to protect him, had to be rebuilt little by little. Over the years, Michael matured, carrying with him the lessons learned from that devastating experience. He dedicated himself to transforming his life and ensuring that the past did not define his future. The relationship with his son was something he always tried to maintain, trying whenever possible to be present in the boy's life, even if from a distance. Laura Lynn, behind bars, has had a lot of time to reflect on her choices and the consequences of her actions. She went through a rehabilitation process, seeking to understand what led her to cross ethical and legal lines. Although regret could not change the past, She hoped that one day she could redeem herself and rebuild her life in some way. The consequences of the Laura Lynn Cross case were profound and lasting. Her and Michael's story served as a powerful reminder about the dangers of abusing power and trust, and about the emotional complexities that can arise in intense human relationships. In the end, everyone involved had to find a way to move on, carrying the scars of a forbidden love that changed their lives forever.